First college football playoff game of 2025. Alabama travels to Oklahoma, Norman, Oklahoma, for a rematch of a regular season matchup we'd already seen once. A game in which Oklahoma was able to dominate the turnover battle, and that kind of gave them the advantage in that close game in Tuscaloosa. Here in the playoffs, the rematch is not in Tuscaloosa; it's in Oklahoma, and now Alabama gets the win, 34-24. It really was not what I was expecting. It started off 17-0 Oklahoma, I believe. It got to the point where I jokingly said to my family, I was like, oh, well, I'm going to turn this game off and go play Minecraft because it's Christmas break, and that's what I've been doing with my siblings while I was home. I did not turn it off. We left it on. I did pick up my computer and dabble a little bit, farms to build and all that. But Alabama comes back. They complete the comeback. They come back and win 34-24. John Mateer just, I feel like, completely changed in the second half of that game. It just was not at all the same offense we saw for the first quarter. So let's dive in. JP, if you want to get us started on some of your takeaways.
I mean, the first one is just the way it started. You can't have a better start than the start that Oklahoma had. Point blank, you can't have a better start. Alabama on their first three drives are three straight three and outs, and OU scores 17 points in those three drives after the three and outs. So they're scoring immediately, and they're scoring from afar too. A huge difference from the first game earlier in the year, where the longest scoring drive OU had in that game was when they had scored from their own 25, but they ended up kicking a 50-yard plus field goal, meaning the longest scoring drive in that first game in Tuscaloosa was right around 47 yards. That was how long the drive had been. OU already had two of those immediately right off the bat, 59 yards for a touchdown on their second drive and 63 yards for a touchdown on the other. But Bama responded, and you have to give a ton of credit to them for the way that they responded in this game, going 9 plays, 75 yards, touchdown to cut it 17-7. Right after that, you have the terrible punt in which the punter doesn't go to kick the ball, and it's what the punters do on the sideline when they're practicing dropping the ball. But obviously, you don't punt the ball into a net or into the stands. You just drop it in front of you and let it hit straight back up. He does the same thing, but on the field for whatever reason. OU's able to survive that, force a field goal, and we go into half following a pick six the very next drive from John Mateer, 17 all, and just like that, it is swung completely on its head. And the stats at halftime, I took pictures of them. Yeah, you get into the second half, and Bama continues to turn around. They score 17, and this was starting with another three and out, essentially immediately starting into the third quarter. But OU goes three and out. OU in the second half is 4 three and outs, 2 missed field goals, and a touchdown drive. So the Bama defense really turns it around, and that was a huge part. The OU offense lost the momentum, and this is the problem with not being able to run the football is you're not able to get into favorable third down positions, and then you're just playing law of averages at that point. The longer the third down is, the harder it is to convert. The more times you have to convert long third downs, the harder it is to sustain a drive, get down the field, and score. Especially just some mismanaging, of course, in the second half. I understand Tate Sandell is the Lou Groza Award winner, best kicker in college football. He's been really, really good from 50 plus all year. But I think OU lost honesty with themselves in terms of the leg that he has. He has been making 50-yarders, and there's credit to him. But he's been making 50-yarders by a foot this year. He's been making 50-yarders by 5 feet this year. They're being good from 55 and not 64. So there's some mismanaging, and that's why he misses a field goal. The second one he misses is just dead short, and the other one he misses is because he pulls it to the left. And so there's some mismanaging, and I think honestly too much trust in a kicker at that point in the season. Ty Simpson, like I said, it turned into an October size Ty Simpson. He was dicing up the OU defense and having a really good day. The pass protection was there. And this is where having the great options, like having Josh Cuevas back, was huge. Daniel Hill gets a big run in the second half, and then the emergence to at least a public standpoint of Lassier Brooks, number 17, has been talked about in the preseason, quietly among the Alabama circle. Has had a few plays here and there this season, and then finally he has the full emergence. It's the 4th and 1 in the first half. It's actually the play before that, um, that starts the first scoring drive, in which he catches a ball that's thrown behind him, and he's able to slide down and make a huge catch, and it's a huge, about 30-yard gain. And then they get down, and he has the 4th and 1 catch, and he has another touchdown in the second half. Um, I completely understand why, Bama fans now come back and say, okay, this is what we knew we could do. And that's completely fair. And that's completely true. They can do this. They've done that numerous times this year. And they've done that even on the road so far this year. They did that at Georgia. This is the kind of way that they played, especially in the first half. They are able to do something similar against Missouri. Um, but this is, I don't like the people that are now pushing back on people that doubted them. Like, I fully agree with Josh Payton and others in that they deserve to be doubted. Why shouldn't they be doubted? They had played this defense, and this defense ate them alive. And that defense did eat them alive for the first half. They had played Auburn, and it wasn't clean, and they made a few key fourth down plays, including one on the goal line. Georgia, if we don't catch a screen pass and Jeremy Bernard doesn't score a touchdown, they lose 28-0 to Georgia just 2 weeks prior. So there was full reason to doubt them and doubt them going forward. They weren't healthy. They needed in this game a huge emergence of Latsier Brooks. They needed Josh Cuevas to play through the pain and have a good day. They needed luck themselves. They needed the punter to not punt the ball. They needed John Mateer to throw it to their DB for a touchdown to force a comeback in this game. So I understand why Bama fans want to come back into the comments and back into the fray and say, hey, why did y'all doubt us? You have every right to do that. But there was complete reason to doubt us, or to doubt you, I should say.
Yeah, about to say,
And I
careful
have
throwing
full
around that
credit to them.
us.
Yeah, I have full credit to them. You got to go do it 3 more times. And so it's kind of a cop-out answer to them pushing back, but for them to be the championship caliber that they hold themselves to, and the standard that they hold themselves to, so much that you want to fire Kalen DeBoer or bench Ty Simpson multiple times over the past month and a half, you got to go do it 3 more times. You got to go back to the place where you lost in Michigan and Nick Saban's final game and beat a Big Ten team. Big Ten champion Michigan, this time a Big Ten champion Indiana. If you're able to do that, you got to go do it again in Atlanta against Oregon or Texas Tech, and then whoever you meet in the national championship game. So the job is far from finished. I don't want to discredit the win because it's a really substantial win, but I do think there is a notion coming from this game and a few of the games this weekend of, do these two teams deserve to compete for a championship? And I think we're going to feel the same about the other good game, at least this weekend. It's a cop-out answer. It's full discredit to them, but I give full credit to the win there. But it's so easy to poke holes in it, and it's so easy to say, I don't know. So I think you still have to prove it at least one more time against Indiana. On January 1st in the Rose Bowl before we're like, okay, championship caliber once again.
Yeah, but I also don't know how relevant that is, because I think the reality is whether or not they could lose to Indiana by 35. They could lose by 5 touchdowns, and I think next year it will take, I think, one good win for us to think of them as championship caliber again. Um, and so really the only thing that's affected by the Indiana game will be the next couple weeks of this season. I don't think it's not gonna affect recruit. They're not a team that has a lot at stake. I don't think. DeBoer's not gonna get fired, and I don't think he's gonna take the Michigan job. I think that's kind of where I've landed on that. That's just my opinion. There's no sources or anything there. I wish that'd be cool, but I think he's gonna stay in Alabama. I think he's gonna be able to recruit his tail off at Alabama, and I think that next year they're gonna be in a better position than they were this year, and they won a playoff game this year. So I really don't know that, like, you talk about like, oh, they have to go win one more to prove themselves as championship caliber. I don't think they have to prove
I'm
anything.
not speaking as like a. I'm not speaking as a program.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
just
yeah,
speaking for this year.
yeah. But I
Just
guess
this year.
I get that, but it's like if they win the game, yeah, I don't know. Like I feel like if they lose, it's just kind of all right, cool. Like we just weren't good enough this year, and then and move on. So I don't even if they have to. I feel like they don't have to prove it for this year because I don't know how much it matters. But I'm sure to Alabama fans it matters a lot. I am not one, so I wouldn't know how to speak to that. Um, but yeah, other big takeaways. Tucker talked about it, and I think you talked about it some. Just the defensive line play, and it was very it flipped at halftime, and so in the first half, Oklahoma was able to get 2 sacks to Alabama's 1, and in the second half, Alabama doubles up Oklahoma. 4 sacks to Oklahoma's 2. And so the offensive line play and the defensive line play, it just entirely shifted the momentum because Mateer has not been the most consistent of quarterbacks. I mean, I think it was in this game where he had a wide open guy and he threw like a sidearm Patrick Mahomes baseball throw and missed him. I was like, why is he doing that? And you made the point like that's what he always does, and I get that. I wasn't questioning like that he's he should change for the playoffs, but it was more of like I don't know. It was just to see it on the big stage like that, and that was a huge thing for me was seeing him not be able to do the basic fundamental stuff. He can flash with his legs, and he can make the some of the high end plays and the highlight stuff, and he can run, but he's just not the guy you want to just sit back there and make passes, and that's what he had the opportunity to do in the first half. Like I said, the offensive line only allowed 1 sack in the first half, and so maybe they left some meat on the bone as far as the first half went before that defensive line for Alabama really settled in and was able to really give it to them in the second half. So I think that's kind of a big takeaway for me is I mean John Mateer is going to be the quarterback at Oklahoma next year. I imagine, unless Arbuckle leaves and maybe then Mateer leaves with him, but. Um, I'll be interested to see how that plays out and how Oklahoma fans feel because I do feel like Mateer kind of didn't perform the best under the brightest lights. He kind of caved under some of the pressure and just wasn't able to do everything they needed done. Right, he was able to do a lot of stuff, score 17 in the first half, but then on drives when the chance was there to go up 3 possessions or I guess 4 possessions or 17-0, and then yeah, like when the opportunities were there to really try and I don't know if you could say go for the kill because it's Alabama and with that offense maybe there never is, maybe they aren't dead, but a opportunity to really emphasize and drive that point home. He wasn't able to do it. So what are your thoughts about Mateer after that game?
Well, I think something that is lost a little bit too much in this era of college football is because this sport has become so professionalized and because these players are getting paid so much money and there is so much anticipation, and when they have a great day and a big moment, you just expect that to continue on. But there are no perfect quarterbacks in college football. There's maybe one a year that we get, and they end up being a consensus #1 overall pick in the draft. There's maybe 2 to 3 quarterbacks that are like consistent, are going to be okay. It's probably going to be an NFL starter. And even NFL starters struggle against NFL teams from week to week. And so I think in college, you have to have the perspective of no quarterback is perfect.
Yeah.
So Mateer has his arm angle, and that's funny and goofy. It works in certain moments, and it touch. He can't throw to the halfback just over the line of his lineman because he's throwing it at the same height as his lineman's shoulder pads, and so he'll never get the ball to him. He gets happy feet when he gets pressured. A ton of quarterbacks do that. Every quarterback you go down the line, like Kamario Taylor, his struggle right now, accuracy and hitting layups. He will airmail someone. He'll just throw it at someone's feet. He may be a little bit too prone to run right now. There's no perfect quarterback. And I think you have to have some perspective on that. So if Mateer were to leave for the draft, or or if he were to come back for another year, which I'm not sure if he has another year of eligibility. I think he has to go to the draft.
I thought he had another year. I'll take a look at that. You keep going.
If he does leave, like OU is going to be a spot that they are going to attract a quarterback because if Brent Venables is going to continue to have defenses like he is having, which I think he will forever, because he's that good. He did that at Clemson. He will do that and continue to do that at OU with Coach Grubb, their offensive coordinator. I think with the poise that they had offensively at the beginning of the year, you would attract a high level transfer. There's a lot of quarterbacks out there that are. You look at the top 10 in the transfer portal rankings right now. I think 7 or 6 of them are quarterbacks right now, and that's still not even including quarterbacks that are more than likely going to be in the portal as well. Marcel Reed could be in the portal. Arch Manning could be in the portal. Anything's out there. Anything's possible. Trinidad Chambliss is probably in the portal. He might go LSU. And they're, so I think they could attract a quarterback very easily. The biggest problem for this year was they could not establish a run game, and you have to have some kind of pulse as a run game. Even in Levy's system here at State, like with everything so spread out, you have to be able to still hand it off to a running back and pick up some yards and be able to run the football that way. They were not able to do that, and they haven't been able to do that all year, and that's been a tremendous problem. And eventually it caught up to them. They weren't able to sustain drives, and because of that, all of the game went on Mateer's hands. If you're going to tell me that a quarterback of John Mateer and the way that he's throwing this year is going to have to throw 41 times, I think more often than not you're going to think it's not going to go well. And I thought he played really, really good in this game, especially in the first half. He was throwing the ball really, really darn well. And then if he continued to throw the football, mistakes are going to happen. He throws a pick six. He misses guys in the second half. There's drop balls. Like, that's just going to happen. So there's no perfect quarterback. If they wanted to move to someone else, by all means, go ahead. I don't think that if he's got another year of eligibility, I don't think they will if he doesn't go to the draft, because the guy was a Heisman favorite at some point this season. And I think you just hope that his wrist heals. He finally got the tape off of his wrist. And so he was finally throwing without anything on his hand.
Yeah.
And I'll just speak from a basketball perspective. Shooting with something on your hand is uncomfortable because you lose all touch. You lose all feel for the most part. And I imagine it was no different with John Mateer and the tape that he had to wear on his hand so far this year. So when he heals that fully, I think you come back next year with him, and I think you have to attack the run game. Like Jay Knott was the number one ranked player in the transfer portal. He goes to OU. He's the running back from Cal. This year he might have had 20 carries.
Yeah. And
I'm telling you, I know that for a fact because he was on my fantasy team. That, like, for the number one player to not have any kind of impact, that really hurt them this year, clearly. I think you just reload. That defense is going to be really good again. I just know it with Venables, and I would give it another run. This is a very successful season, I think, for both teams. Tucker said about Bama, winning a playoff game versus missing the playoff last year is a tremendous improvement. Making the playoff already was an improvement because it at least got a little bit of the monkey off your back. And then for OU, they made the playoff. They hosted a playoff game. The run that they had to go win in Knoxville and win in Tuscaloosa was tremendous. And then the big wins early on in the year. They're going to have some nice tests next year, but manageable. They get to play at Michigan next year, which will be a big game early in the year. And then they'll have their SEC schedule playing 9 games. So they're going to have plenty of opportunities to be back in this spot again. So I wouldn't panic on Mateer. They're welcome to, and maybe they could. And that's the big thing in college football right now. You have no clue.
Yeah. We
We have no clue. Mateer might go somewhere else, or they might bring in a quarterback who's better. Alonzo Barnett from James Madison. Someone good. But I wouldn't panic on Mateer. I thought he played one of his better games of the season. It sucks that his pick ends up being a pick six in this game. That's probably the changing point in the game for me, because it's 17-10 going to half instead of 17 all, and then it's tied up at half, and you've outplayed the other team. So Bama's lucky to be tied up at halftime. I wouldn't panic. I wouldn't panic on my tier going forward. I give him another year.
Yeah, and he does have another year, so this is year 4 for him. But he redshirted his freshman year at Washington State, behind Cam Ward, I think. So there's that. He does have another year, so I expect him to return. Anything else on this game? Any other big takeaways? One thing I noticed was uh, odd or of note. Two upsets or two road. Excuse me, not two upsets. Well, yes, two upsets, but also two road wins. Alabama and Miami both go on the road and get wins. Last year in our 8-9 matchup, Ohio State versus Tennessee, Ohio State won, and the 7-10 was Notre. Who was the 10 seed? I can't remember what the 7-10 was, but I think the 7 won. I'm gonna fact check that
The
real
7
quick.
did win.
Yeah,
7 was Notre Dame, Indiana. 6 versus 11 was Penn State versus SMU,
yeah. So
and the Texas
this
versus
year,
Clemson.
last year we saw the home teams sweep it. Four home teams, 4 wins. This year we see in the two close matchups we see 2 road wins. Um, so that was something that I thought was interesting, kind of unexpected, just given how much hype there's been around the home playoff game, and it's great. Like home playoff games are awesome, but that just kind of caught me off guard because I really wasn't expecting that of the 2 games that were going to be close for both road teams to be able to come in and get the win. That was not on my bingo card.
I think it sucks because the other two, you're playing group of 5 teams, and this is the ACC's fault and not those teams' fault, but Ole Miss and Oregon not getting tested. I think a big thing for A&M to be at 7 and not be at 6, which made no sense to any of us. We thought A&M's resume was better. We thought A&M was just a straight up better team, and the difference between that is getting to play Tulane or Miami, and that ends up being the reason your season is over. I think it sucks for A&M in that case. I'm not necessarily shocked that a road team won this year. I think just the more chances you get, the more it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
There were really only 2 good chances this year for both of them to happen. It's completely feasible.